Okay guys, welcome to Module 1. In this module, our expert will cover how to do preliminary research to find decision makers in your target company. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
All right, so the main thing we're looking for with cold calling is to have a decision maker on the phone, but specifically to know their name. The name is huge. The name in the first place is going to help you get past the gatekeeper, okay? It has a huge effect psychologically when you can actually say the person's name instead of just asking, hey, can I have whoever's in charge of, sales decisions or marketing decisions, right? And it also helps you build a little bit of rapport during the initial interaction once you finally get the person on the phone, if you already know their name. Now, for a lot of the smaller businesses, little mom and pop locations, you're going to be able to find their names relatively easily because they're right on their website, right? You can go to the About page on their website and there'll be a picture or a name, and it's much easier with smaller companies in many cases. Once you get a little bit bigger, or once you're dealing with, say, the more elusive companies, you're going to have to get into some databases or into some social networks. So your first go-to thing is probably LinkedIn. Everybody knows how to search LinkedIn. You can literally look for company names and look who's associated with them, do some advanced searches. However, if you want to go a step further, you can actually rely on software and services whose whole job is just to find you the names and sometimes even the specific unique contact information for the individuals in a company. Some of these things go really deep. They have the structure, the different levels of hierarchy within the company. They've got names, they've got pictures, they've got cell phone numbers and emails and all that good stuff. And one that we can have a look at first here is Sales Genie. Now, Sales Genie has a huge database, as you can see, 25 million plus businesses. And the thing about Sales Genie and software like that is going to be that they constantly verify and update their information, okay? Because a lot of databases back in the old days, positions change, right? And so you'd make a call and say, hey, is Bob there? And somebody would say, well, he hasn't worked here in 2 years, right? And so you want to use a good service that actually stays up to date. And they're constantly making calls even to make sure that they know who's in what positions and that their names and their data are updated. And just to give you a little inside peek, you can have a look inside of Sales Genie here. This is a local business in Topeka, and we can literally get the executive's name and their title, right? A phone number to reach them at, and then you've got a whole bunch of other contacts inside. So you've got a whole bunch of first names that you can throw out during the cold calling process, whether you're just doing your reconnaissance or whether you're trying to get through the gatekeeper. Josh, Ben, Ryan, Ashley over in sales, right? Ben's the site manager and the head of marketing. It's pretty useful stuff to have on hand. And again, you want to work with a software that gives you the most up-to-date information. And a lot of these, beyond just contact info, will give you a lot of other good stuff to know as well. As you can see here, you've even got the total number of employees and the local annual sales or location annual sales for this business. And that's pretty useful as well when you're combing through and seeing, how likely is a place to purchase what you have. If sales aren't big enough, or, maybe the employee or organization size is not what you're looking for, then just to avoid them altogether. But this is really the golden information here. Okay, names, titles, contact information, as well as first names of other high-ranking people in the company. That's going to help you a whole lot during the cold calling process. Some other ones that we can look at include Seamless.ai. Same basic idea, maybe a bigger database, and you can also import these directly into your CRM at the click of a button. Right here you've got emails, specifically, in some cases it looks like personal emails that they might have depending on what companies you're looking for, phone numbers and all that good stuff for the different executives and decision makers in companies. And it's pretty useful if you're using a CRM like Salesforce or whatever it is that you're using. If it integrates with this, you can import them directly into your CRM without having to just browse through their website here. And you or your cold callers can get to work on that information that you're compiling and importing. Another somewhat newer concept now is inbound lead generation based on people who come to your website. Even if they don't fill out a form or contact you or anything like that, they can figure out that with a tool like Lead Feeder here, they can figure out who visited your site, what company they work for, what they did on your site. So that's some pretty advanced analytical and tracking stuff. And it's pretty neat because you can figure out who's proactively interested in what you have to offer. And you can call them up and say, hey, I know you guys visited, or someone from your organization visited our website recently. We were just wondering if you were interested in what we have to offer, et cetera, et cetera. And it, automatically, you've already got a warm point, a point of reference, something that you can refer to that has happened that led you to call them. You know, in any instance, any point of reference that you can utilize to make a call a little bit warmer when you make it is beneficial. And this is an absolutely spectacular one if you've got companies visiting your site. Now, one other thing that a lot of people don't really think of is sort of rolling up your sleeves and doing some of the, intelligence gathering yourself. And you can actually just call reception. You can just call the company and you'll get the gatekeeper. But in this case, you don't have to worry about them doing any gatekeeping jobs because you're literally just asking some questions. Hey, so-and-so here. I'm curious, who's in charge of sales over there? Oh, who's in charge of accounting? Oh, who do I talk to about, human resources stuff? And you can get names. And if you're not having luck at reception, then you can ask to be, just call the company and ask, hey, can you patch me over to sales? I need to talk to sales real quick. Or I need to talk to accounting. Receptionists and even well-trained gatekeepers are usually trying to keep you away from the head honchos. They're not necessarily trying to keep you away from other departments, on a horizontal basis inside of their organization. That's not what they're trained to do. And so if you say, hey, I need to talk to somebody in sales or in accounting, they'll patch you over. It's just a game of hot potato. And suddenly you're talking to Dwight in sales, right? And you can do your intelligence gathering there. Hey, Dwight, I've got to talk about XYZ. Can you tell me who's in charge of making marketing decisions or buying decisions? Hey, who's the main decision maker? Okay, what's his name? What's his title? Right? And you can do the same thing in other departments like accounting. Nobody's going to defend accounting. Nobody's going to say, no, I can't pass you off to accounting or I can't give you accounting's number because it's not something that people are hardwired to think is a salesy thing. They're not worried about you calling accounting to make sales. So you can get through to accounting. And when you're in accounting, guess what? The people in accounting are not trained to be gatekeepers. They're not trained to be tight-lipped. So if you're talking to accounting, you can ask them, and they, perhaps more than anyone in the company, will know who decision makers are when it comes to financial decisions. And you can ask, hey, who's in charge of your HR decisions? Hey, who's in charge of things like leadership training? Who's the head honcho who would approve something like that? What's their name? Oh, what's their title? Oh, do you have a phone number for them? Oh, can you transfer me to them? Now, it might be a little bit less likely that they'll transfer you on the spot, but it's worth asking because guess what? They're going to be more likely to than a gatekeeper in many cases because, again, if you're working in accounting, if you're an accountant, you haven't been trained to screen calls. So it's a way to get through, and we'll talk about that. We'll reiterate that in the next lesson. But for now, I'm talking purely using this as an intelligence gathering tool, okay, to figure out the names of the people in the organization, okay? Just sort of go around, the carousel, for lack of a better term, and get as much information as you can from each person there, to build that database of intelligence that you have, the names of the people and the positions that they're in. And that'll come in handy when it comes time to actually make the cold calls. Now, once you make the cold calls, once you know who you're trying to get a hold of, what their name is, who you're talking to, what do you actually say to them, especially in those first opening seconds? That's what we're going to talk about in the next module.